I was just thinking, I was like, wow, this is like an amazing place. And then all of a sudden, I felt the presence around me. I don't know if it was just one or multiple, but they started speaking to me in a language I didn't understand. But I knew what they were saying to me. It was like almost like having subtitles in a movie. So like they were speaking their language, but I could totally understand them. Yeah, I've had definitely some visions slash downloads of things that are coming in the next. I'm Sean, and before my NDE, I was and still am a crane operator, and I used to be a paramedic. I back then I was really materialistic. I uh, did I follow any religions or have any faith before my near-death experience? No. I was pretty close to an atheist. I wasn't an atheist. I was really close though. I left like a crack of a door open for something else. Yeah, but before, no, I wasn't. I was really self-absorbed. I really wanted everything to do with the material world, um, and I was super unhappy. Um, and then in 2020, in June 2020, I ended up. I was in the worst part of my life. I had just lost my business. We were having to move out of our house, and we were having to move into a small two-bedroom apartment, like really small. And we were, I was working two jobs and trying to just put food on the table, and also trying to get ready to move. And at that point, we were trying getting ready to move out of our house, and I think we only had a couple things left. My wife at the time was painting and doing, or sorry, she was cleaning. I was doing the painting and doing some touch-ups, and so I went downstairs to go get some paint, and underneath the stairs was this paint can that was about yay big, and on top of it there's this little pull top, and I went to go pull it off, but it was covered in paint, so I couldn't pull it off. And so I ended up taking out my pocket knife. I should have went upstairs and grabbed my screwdriver, but I was super tired, and I really didn't think I needed it. I was like, no, I'll just use my pocket knife. It should be fine. And so I put my hand down on the bucket to hold it, to keep it steady, and I went in with my knife and was trying to pry it and pry it and pry it, and all of a sudden it popped, and it ended up hitting me right here, right on my arm, and it ended up nicking my artery, and blood went spraying everywhere instantly. And I clamped down on it super fast. I was holding down really hard, but it wouldn't stop, and I went running upstairs, yelling for my wife. I was like, "Well, like I gotta go. We gotta go to the hospital." And luckily, I didn't get any blood in the main floors because that she had just cleaned, so that was good. I ended up outside. I was running towards the car across the garage pad, and my wife was yelling behind me. She's like, "We can't go." She's like, "I'm not driving you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I turned around and I looked, and there was like blood everywhere, like a trail. And it looked kind of like you had shot an elk or a deer or something. It was a lot. Um, and so I said, "Okay, uh, call 911." And I went back and I dropped the tailgate of my truck, and I was just kind of leaning up, trying to stop the flow of blood, and ended up filling up the my entire back of my tailgate, and I it was filling up, and I was starting to get super woozy. She was on the phone with 911, and I was thinking, oh, I should probably put on a tourniquet, and for some reason 911 said no, which is really weird. Um, there's a couple weird things about about my whole thing. But yeah, they said don't do it, and I was so out of it by then because I'd lost so much blood that I just went, oh, okay. And I sat down up against the garage, and I kind of like just leaning there. I was trying to stop it. She had grabbed me a rag to put on there to try to help like stop it, and I was pushing so hard that it snapped my muscles, and they went up into my shoulder and then and balled up in my wrist, and I started getting woozier and woozier. So I slid down, and everything started going really white, like from the edges, and started to come in. And it was June, and so I can still remember how hot it was on my skin. I could really smell everything. I could smell like the coppery smell of the blood. And so then I asked her to bring over my wagon, because there was a wagon there, the kid's wagon, and I put myself in like the recovery position, so on my side, and I leaned up and I propped my arm up and I was holding it like this, and by then it just had gone down to a drip, because I'd lost so much. And so my vision started going whiter and whiter and whiter, and I could barely see anything, just little spots. And then the next thing I know, I'm looking down at a body, and I didn't realize who it was. I was just looking at this body, and I was thinking, oh man, that guy looks terrible. Like, he doesn't look very good. And I could see all this blood around. And then it took me a good couple seconds to realize that was me. And then as soon as I realized it was me, I went shooting straight up like a rocket. And I went through the clouds, and then all of a sudden I was in this black void space. Just that seemed like empty of everything. I could feel things around me, but I couldn't see anything. And then there was this light, and it started getting closer and closer. And the best way I can describe it is if you took white ink and dropped it on a black piece of paper from a height, and how it has like the torn edges and splashes and stuff. That's what it kind of looked like. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I got really close, all of a sudden I was in the meadow, and it was like a really beautiful meadow. And at that time, I wasn't like super into I hunted, and I liked nature, but I wasn't like loving nature. And in that moment, I was just like, wow, this is like the most beautiful place I've ever been. And so I was in this meadow, and there's pink little butterflies and blue butterflies and flowers, and the smell was super intense. Like, it just smelled like everything was like, you could just smell everything. In the distance, there was this one single tree and this little stream that ran beside it. And I was just thinking, I was like, wow, this is like an amazing place. And then all of a sudden I felt the presence around me. I don't know if it was just one or multiple, but they started speaking to me in a language I didn't understand. But I knew what they were saying to me. It was like almost like having subtitles in a movie. So like they were speaking their language, but I could totally understand them. And they said that I had a choice, that I could go back, or I could stay with them. And at that time, I didn't think I was like a positive to the world, even to my kids. I didn't think I was worth going back. I thought I was like a net negative on the world, essentially. And so I was like, oh well, I'm staying. They're like, there's no way I'm going back. And they said, well, before you make your decision, we want to show you something. And there had been this herp music playing, and it was really, I remember thinking at the time, that like, this is like so stereotypical. Like, this is exactly what I would have expected, which is kind of funny, because it just felt like super on the nose. Like, yeah, this is the afterlife. And so they just said, we'll show you something. And so the next thing I know, I'm in this giant library, and it's this giant library hall, and it's huge. And it's beautiful, and it smells like old wood. It's like a person that loves books, this would be like their favorite thing in the world. Like it was beautiful. And you could there was torchlight, but there was no smoke. There was these giant at the very end of there's windows, and they were like stained glass, and there's paintings along the roof, and it was huge. It was like, it had to be a couple stories high, kind of like St. Peter's Basilica, so bigger. And then on the sides there was these multi-floors of bookcases with really big books. Like the books were probably like this big and really thick, with really beautiful ornate leather binding, and you could smell the leather too. Like it was really weird up there, or wherever it was. You could smell, like I could smell like everything all at once. That's what I really remember. And so they started leading me down this hallway and into a room off the right. And it was like I was floating as they were guiding me. I don't remember walking or anything. It was like I was on a track. And I go into this room, and then this other room, it's large. There's books in here. There's windows, and in the middle of this room, there's this table, and there's a dome on top of this table of glass. And I go up to it, and inside it, I'm shown my life, but it looks like a tree. And so what I'm shown is that is the roots are all these possible paths that I could have made, and these choices I could have made to get to this event. And this event, like my death or near death, is the tree trunk. And then after the tree trunk is all these different choices that eventually turn into roots, and then back into another event that's unavoidable. So there's all these events that are unavoidable throughout my life, but there's many ways to get to them. Some are easy, some are hard. And I really wish I knew like, I don't remember anything about the past or the future or anything, and I really wish I did. But all I was shown was like the tree, and I don't remember, I wasn't allowed to remember like anything about the future or anything. And they said, okay, so if you have a choice, you can stay with us, and it's totally fine. There's no wrong choice. But if you do choose to go back, it's your last chance. And then the next thing I remember, and I don't actually remember choosing, the next thing I know is I'm waking up to a paramedic standing over me. They're putting a tourniquet on my arm, and they're putting an IV in me. They're asking if there's anybody else in the house, because there was so much blood. They thought that maybe I'd been like a fight or something. And so the one paramedic goes back into the house, double checks, and then they get me into the ambulance, and they check my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was down to like 35 over 45 or 45 over 35. I can't remember. It was really low. And I started bouncing back really fast. I started recovering super fast, which is really shocking with that amount of blood loss. And all they ended up giving me was saline solution, so I never got a blood transfusion or anything, which again was really weird. It might have been just because of COVID, I'm not sure, but it was kind of weird that they didn't give me any blood. And then I ended up going for surgery, and then this is from the actual surgeon right here. So the entry wound is right there. I've had definitely some visions / downloads of things that are coming in the next 10-ish years. I'm not sure. I definitely think there's going to be something to do with the grid going down. I'm not the only one saying this. I just don't know. To me personally, the messaging I've been mostly getting at is that the grid is going to be going down, and it won't be just in like North America or Europe or Asia. It'll be across the board, and that we're going to have to stop relying so much on the grid and how we get electricity, and start becoming more self-reliant. And I think that's the biggest thing, is becoming self-reliant instead of relying on this crumbling, it seems, society. Or this could all be symbolism of our internal struggles and our internal growth that we all seem to be going through. I don't know. It's a wait and see it kind of thing. The voices that I heard while I was on the other side, they were, I don't know who they were. I felt like I knew them. It felt like they could have possibly been my guides. They could have been, I don't know what they were. I never got clear answers. With my NDE, I didn't get very many answers. I got way more questions than answers, actually. And so since 2020, my whole journey has been trying to understand not just what happened, but understand myself. And so I would say that they could have been possibly my guides. That's only a recent, probably in the last week, I've been thinking about that they could have been my own guides, because it felt like they were my team. It really felt like they, or even family maybe. It felt like I knew them, and it felt like the amount of love that was radiating off them and towards me, like the feeling of there was no judgment, everything that we went through, what happened in my life, and you're always filled with regrets, right? Of things that you might have done, people you might have hurt, but there wasn't any judgment. There was just lessons to be learned. And yeah, I'm not sure who they were, but they were super loving. So after my NDE, did I have any messages or gifts? I would say that I have a really strong empathic sense now. Before the NDE, I wasn't empathic at all, I don't think. Never really felt anybody. But afterwards, I started feeling other people, and it was really confusing. For about a year, it was super confusing. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe even a year and a half. It's hard to remember. But I remember a specific moment that I was sitting in my crane, just doing my work, and all of a sudden this wave of anger came flying over me. And I wasn't doing anything, and I couldn't understand why all of a sudden I was super angry. And I was thinking, wow, this is really weird. And I look over, and the guy I was working with, we're on the same shift together. We're always working together. I look over, and he had dropped something, and I think he might have dropped on his foot, and he was mad, flipping mad, and he was grabbing stuff, and he was throwing it, and he was kicking things, and that was a moment for me where I realized, well, maybe all the feelings I'm feeling maybe isn't just me, maybe it's other people I'm feeling. And so now when I especially, it's hard over Zoom and stuff, but when I'm in a physical room or area with people, I can really feel people now. It was really unnerving. Now I'm kind of used to it now. But the nice thing about that is then you can really feel if somebody's really angry or having a tough time or something, you can understand where they're coming from, because you don't take even if they're saying something super rude or whatever, you can usually understand. It's okay, well, there's other things going around, and that's not just because I can feel it. I've learned because of this. I think that's been the biggest gift, is the learning that everybody else is carrying around baggage, and just because they have a bad day and they blame it on you, or you have a bad day and blame it on them, or whatever, it's easier to understand people. Because I found before it was really tough to understand why people would do certain things, and now I think that's been the biggest gift, is I understand people a lot more. Why do different people of different religious backgrounds see different themes and things? I think it's really actually just because it's highly specialized. I think that everything is like specific for that person, um, because they seem to be able to look at not just the past and the future, but they also they know you. And I know for myself, I think mine was like tailor made for me. Even the messaging at the end, the messaging was so clear for me that, like, looking back now, like, if I didn't have that message, I could have easily, even after this, I could have easily slipped back into my old patterns. But because I had that message of like, this is your last chance, it really made me question every decision I made. And that really allowed me to pretty much the freedom to rewrite my life. And so I think they're all tailor made. They're all exactly what that person might need to see and know at that moment. My big takeaway from this particular from my near-death experience, the thing that really followed me for a long time after this was the message that this is my last chance. And at the time, I was really worried that, and I was really scared of what that meant. Like it felt like almost like a threat or a warning. And um, so I was really questioning every decision I was making. But on the flip side, because of that, I ended up making a huge amount of changes in my life. Like my life before and my life now is it's totally different. We end up getting divorced. I end up changing jobs. I'm in a new job now. I end up pretty much changing careers. My values have changed now. Even my faith has changed. So before I didn't have any faith. I was mostly in science and technology. Now I'm highly spiritual. I've done research into shamanism, hermeticism, Buddhism, pretty much all the isms. And I like to, I even do meditation now, which before I never did. Even have like a group meditation group that we use or that we have. And yeah, the life before seemed really devoid of richness and joy. It just was like do the grind, right? You just go to work, you just follow like the rat race, all that sort of thing. And it didn't seem like there was that much magic. And now I have like synchronicities all the time. There's interesting things going around. There seems to be more richness to life now. And I'm not so before, if something bad happened, it would just like it ruin my entire week, my entire month, my entire year. Now I don't worry about that. There's gonna be bad times because there's always gonna have hiccups in your life. But that really allows you to really enjoy the good times. And so I look forward to not just the good times, but also the bad times as well. I think we choose missions in order to get growth. And sometimes we bite off more than we can chew. So I never used to believe in reincarnation, but now I do again. So there's all these there's all these things that I never used to believe in, and now I'm like totally I believe in reincarnation. I believe that we're on this wheel of evolution of consciousness and of our soul and with karma. And I definitely think that we do choose our lives. We even probably choose which families we get into. And then there's certain events. So like I think my NDE was always going to happen. I think that was one of those pre-life decisions that it was always going to happen. But how we get there, there's still this free will because we'd lost all of our memory of before this life. And so I think it's almost like school. So Dolores Cannon, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dolores Cannon, but Dolores Cannon talks about Earth, like Earth School, and I think right now, like this moment, that's where I'm kind of sitting at, and that we're kind of like in kindergarten or maybe grade one, and we're learning how to get back to being one with everything. And sometimes we choose an assignment because we got all these assignments we can do, and sometimes we choose an assignment that was way more difficult than we thought it was going to be, because on the other side it's like, it can't be that hard. It can't, you're super poor in a third world country, like how hard can that be? Well, it's really hard. Or you're in a city with tons of crime, and or you chose something. It's really difficult to say that, because there's so much suffering in the world. It's really difficult to say, oh, you chose that. That seems like spiritual bypassing to me. It really seems like that. But on the other hand, yeah, it kind of seems like, yeah, we do choose these things, but it doesn't negate the fact that how difficult life can be on Earth. It's not easy, and then it's really hard to get to that moment where, if you're having a really bad struggle and you're feeling like you're in the middle of a hurricane and you're getting pushed all around, how to be able to just keep going and find the beauty in life even through all that. Yeah, it's tough. So I've had a lot of weird stuff happening now. So I've had encounters with non-human intelligences. I've had tons of synchronicities, which are everyone says, oh, they're just a coincidence, but they're very specific. Like, and a lot of times there'll be like a synchronistic storm, or like a string of events that it's almost like you're getting led. It's like a teacher's leaving you breadcrumbs all over, and it's allowing you to explore and learn at a way faster rate. So I would say a gift is just being able to listen to the universe and see what it's trying to tell us. I do see things that it's hard to explain. I have seen what are typically called shadow beings. So they're these black shadows that look, they're like 3 feet tall, and they just look like shadows. My grandpa even saw those theories. So there's the crypto-terrestrials, which is like they're from Earth, we just don't know about them. There's like the interdimensional, they're from an adjacent dimension. There's extraterrestrial, which means that they're maybe us from the future. There's all these different theories. I haven't been told anything, but I think that these non-human intelligences, spirits, ghosts, the afterlife, I think it's all connected, and I think the connection is consciousness. And I think we're all connected, and we might be all in different schools, maybe. So maybe it's the same sort of thing, that we're all learning how to be better and move higher up in our levels of consciousness. That was a big question, and it was a question I was asking myself a lot. It's like, why the hell did it happen to me? Why did I get allowed to come back and others haven't? That one was really hard. I think I've talked to a couple of other people that have had NDEs, and for a while there, I think I was having survivor's guilt, to be honest, because that first probably 2 years, I really didn't think I should have came back. I don't think I was worth the trouble when so many other people had died, and I kept questioning that, like why did I get this choice? And maybe everybody does. I don't know how that works. But a little further away now, the further away I get from it now, I think being able to, I'm glad I came back. I just still don't know why. But I'm really glad I did come back, because of the reason that the people around me, the people I talked to, everyone has an impact on everybody else. And we always think that we don't have an impact, but I really think that everyone has an impact with everyone you encounter. And it can be the smallest thing. It could just be saying hi to someone and wishing them a good day. That could have been enough for them that day to really impact their lives. So I think maybe why me? Yeah, I think for myself, I think I needed that kick. I needed a really strong kick in order to change and get me out of my stupor and become awake, like awaken to who I should be and instead of who I was trying to be. I know my focus now is just becoming more self-reliant, becoming more empathetic, trying to instead of react with anger or anything like that. I'm trying to react out of a place of love for everybody. Sometimes it's really difficult because sometimes they're just assholes. But I understand where they're coming from, so I still try to um, try to understand where everyone is on their journey, and understand that um, the only people that can be helped is themselves. Like they can only we can help ourselves, and that I think we need to start learning how to take care of ourselves better, and that if we take care of ourselves better, then we can take care of each other better. So I'm hoping that in the future we'll be a little kinder.